Watch it, boys bracing. Here we go, and go hard. And go hard. Very good. The Paddlers Pod with Sam and Macca.
Well, it's been a little bit of a break, but we are back on the Paddlers Pod. Hello and welcome home to your favourite paddling podcast. My name is Sam Jordan, and a huge welcome home to my co-host, who's now officially, well, let's crown him, the 26th best paddler in the whole world, Mackenzie Heinard. You look like you were just rolled out of bed. But that is the life of an elite athlete, isn't it?
Oh, doesn't that have a nice ring to it, hey Sam? 26th in the world, geez, that's not what we went there for at all. But I am one better than Josh Fenn, so.
I did actually see that on the results when I double checked. I didn't want to misquote your place at the world titles, and I didn't actually realise that Josh was one below. So that's a good scalp. That's a good scalp. You can keep working. You can keep picking off names.
Third place at last year's world titles. Geez, yeah, that was. It's not how. Yeah, like I said, not how it was planned to go. We'll dive into, and digest everything that happened and occurred at the world titles. But I mean, all in all, fantastic week. Race conditions not so great, but I still had a good time. Put a bit let the wind a bit out of my sails in a way, like as you do when you put a lot into it, and then you don't get what you set out to achieve, and if anything, it's like pretty disappointing. So that was a bit tough, but that's the emotional roller coaster of living a professional athlete, or I don't know, maybe more of like an
elite athlete. Macca is where I'll put you, and you're right,
yeah.
and that's also the reality of the sport as well, mate. You should still be very proud of, well, maybe not specifically your result, because I know you're pretty hard on yourself, but certainly proud of the work that you put in and the fact that you were able to get there as well. You can actually, I'm going to leave that cough in. I'm still feeling the effects of what was pneumonia.
Been taken down.
Very, very sick. So look, I tell you what, I'm glad I wasn't entered to race at the world titles, because I wouldn't have got to the start line anyway. But that is essentially what has been behind our little delay. There was a little delay on the website as well, but we're now churning out articles again, which is great to see. That everyone is still getting around the paddling. And Macca, you're now back in the country as well. You did get a nice, enjoyable break after that World Titles campaign, not just on Madeira. You were in Iceland. You were in Bali. You've been living the life.
I have. It was very much a holiday as well. Got to see the Northern Lights more than once in Iceland. Froze my backside off. It was about minus 10 degrees some of the nights, if not more. And then, went to defrost in Bali. It wasn't all, rainbows and sunshine. I was there for work. We had a company offsite, which was really good. It was with the Live Feeds company. So it's
little shout outs, why not?
Yeah, a little shout out. Yeah, got it. I mean, they let me live the life I do. But it was it's good to be back, but you're also back to reality, right? It was nice to having a little escapism for a while, but the world still turns and the sun still comes up, and here we are. So
it's philosophical. What a philosophical way to start. Not just look what is going to be our special World Championships focused episode. That is what you're listening to right now. But I dare say, depending on when you listen to it, there's probably another episode there as well. We're doing a double header here today on what is a beautiful day in Australia. It's starting to warm up. That racing is going to start heating up as well, because we are all looking towards that Shaw and Partners WA race week. The Hong Kong Dragon Run is on as well in just a few weeks. There's plenty happening around the surf ski world. But this episode is all going to be about reliving the 2024 ICF Ocean Racing World Championships in Madeira.
The Paddlers Pod. Power Plays.
Just one power play on this episode of the Paddlers Pod, which is being brought to you by Vaikobi, and that is reliving the 2024 World Titles. It's grown over the last, 11 years now since it started, the ICF Ocean Racing World Championships, to a really, really important, if not the biggest race on the racing calendar that we do see now. And this year certainly was no different. We didn't quite see the depth of talent that we have seen in previous years. We've spoken about that a bit in the lead up to what was the World Titles, but the quality, rather, was certainly there when that starting gun fired. Now, Mackenzie, I sat on the other side of the world watching it all from afar. Take me to the world titles this year. Firstly, from an event perspective, what was it like?
I mean, did you watch?
No, I didn't.
It was way too late, right?
Do you know, I was at a wedding. I was at a wedding.
Full call out here.
Riley Fitzsimmons' wedding, and Georgia Miller, surf sports royalty. And I was actually sitting next to Lani Hill, of course, the wife of Corey Hill, the backbone of Corey Hill. And I said to Lani, Lance, we're going to have a watch party. The world titles are only on in 2 hours. She said, there's not a fucking chance I'm watching that. So I didn't actually end up watching it either. And I had been meaning to go back and watch it. I knew I forgot something.
Yeah, look, it was... So, yeah, from the starting of the week, Corey and I actually arrived there together. We arrived in Manchester, jumped on a plane down to Madeira. I think we brought down the average age of that plane by about 60 years. It's definitely a holiday destination for the whole of Europe, as they call it, the Hawaii of Europe in Madeira. Landed, everything was bustling where we were heading. It was all around the CR7, which I didn't really understand why, and then I put two and two together.
Tell me you saw the famous bust statue at the front of the airport.
No, so I don't know if it's been moved. I reckon it's been moved, so it's now down.
Maybe it's been ripped out.
Yeah, well, no, the one that you were talking about, I definitely saw because it looks nothing like the famed Cristiano Ronaldo. And it's actually outside of the CR7, which is the event hub and the where the after party was, where the event location or event accommodation was. So that's actually the Cristiano Ronaldo Museum is the CR7. I didn't know that until I put two and two together.
For those who are just catching up on this is Cristiano Ronaldo, perhaps the most famous athlete in the world, and he's from Madeira. There was this bust statue that was made of him. That is comedy. It's pure comedy. It's like the original bad statue. That was the one thing that I had FOMO about, not getting to see that.
Weird. And do you know what? The genital area of the statue is so rubbed out. It's like so many people have gone and touched that area of the statue. It's a completely different colour.
How'd you go? Did you give it a rub?
I didn't give it a rub. But you know what? No. I should have. Jeez.
Maybe you needed to give it a rub.
And then, yeah, so things were bustling. Things were going really well. They had an event site. Everyone's down there in and around the containers. Naturally, like, we're not like the most catered to people, and we never will be. Self-catered, you know what I mean? We don't really care for much. And they'd set up all this, like, tents, undercover area where like you could go and hang out, and then everyone naturally just congregated around the containers and sat around there. Standard surf ski paddlers. There was a short race on during the days previous. I think the day before, which there was a few people that did that. It looked like hell just in around the harbour. 3K. I think Darwood Mock might have won that. It's pretty much his bread and butter. Those sort of things. And yeah, event day came around. The wind was not great all week. That was tough. We were just like paddling out of the harbour. You're really only getting into the wind like 6k away, and then realising that about from where this big headland was, it was 6k to go, and we soon realised that was almost going to be a headwind come race day, and there was not much we could do about it. I think everyone was mentally preparing for that. And yeah, I mean, organisational-wise, it was a fantastic event. They had us do the opening ceremony through the main streets of Madeira. I'm sure there would have been a lot of people thinking, what is this that they're marching through? They had some people leading out that were playing. They were like a street band orchestra. It was really cool, like in their manufactured own like drums and musical instruments. They were leading us out down the main street. It was nice. It was like a short opening ceremony, which I think everyone was quite relieved with. It was pretty hot over there in the sun in the afternoon. And
you know what, Mac, I might just jump back in for a second. We have ticked off essentially a pretty comprehensive recap of the entire event. We could leave the podcast there. But given that you did kind of half talk about the race, maybe we jump back in at this moment and talk about the race as well. Because look,
things overrated, hey?
The conditions were the big talking point out of the race as well, in that, again, we keep getting promised guaranteed downwind. We're going to have a little chat about what might be going on in the universe to keep denying us wind. But at the end of the day, we still did crown world champions, and they're certainly deserving ones as well. We're going to start with the men's this episode, then we're going to talk through the women's race as well. And on top of the world, the new world champion is Germany's Gordon Harbrecht. He's the first European paddler to win that overall world title. In fact, apart from the year in 2021 in the Canary Islands, when Australia and South Africa were unable to attend, Europe had never got an open medal as well. So that is a monumental achievement. Gordon finishing in front of Corey Hill and Hank McGregor were at the top three. Matthew Fenn winning the under-23s and finishing fourth overall, with Kenny Rice and Nicky Naughton, the two former world champions, 5th and 6th. Bernardo Pereira, the local, was in 7th. Hector Henot was 8th. Pierre Villela was 9th. And rounding out that top 10 was Uli Hart. Macca, to start with Gordon, this has been something that's been building for a very, very long time. He's now on top of the world.
Pretty cool, right? Like, I mean,
it's amazing. It's such an incredible story.
Yeah, I got to interview him after the race, in what some would have seen on our social media.
Yeah, thanks for doing that too. That was God's I can't imagine it's too easy after posting a 26 to go, okay, now I'm going to go around and interview everyone.
I had to swallow my pride pretty quickly and just be like, whatever. Like, if I couldn't give the result that I wanted, maybe I can give something more to let people into the raw insights. And you could just tell how much it meant, right? I don't know if anyone else wanted it that much, to be fair. Like, and it's been building and building and building for so long. I mean, Hank, you could arguably say, has got just as many podium results and is desperate for a win. But it just seemed like, you know, even when I think we went for a warm-up paddle the first day I got there, and Nicky Naughton had just arrived, and we realised that it was going to be a reasonably flat, if not headwind, last 6 kilometres. And Nicky turns to Gordon and says, "How worried should I be if you're close to me here?" And he just turns around and goes, "Worried." And I was like, all right. Like,
there was this really cool reflection from Gordon in an article that is now on the paddle.news as well. It's a bit of a deep dive on his win and kind of chatting through the greater significance of that as well. But there was this one moment that stands out to me, which was that, you know, Gordon last year in Perth, in what was strong, you know, downwind conditions, 20 knots or so, was first to that 2K turning marker on that day. And he had the idea in his head that he wanted to do the exact same again this year. And he said that when Hank McGregor, before the start of the race, came and found him and pulled up next to him, Gordon said he just kind of looked at him and thought to himself, okay, if you want to come with me, I'm going to make you hurt. And I think that kind of sums up Gordon's relentless attitude to racing as well. He did attack it, but for him, he said that he actually paddled that downwind section of the race, or what was there, I think it was about 8K from maybe the 2nd K to the 10th K. He said he paddled that conservatively, even though he was in front. He was just ahead of Corey and Hank, because he knew what was coming. And when that wind turned up, he just grit his teeth and gave it to himself. And in the end, that winning margin was a little bit under a minute, which is extraordinary. Macca, for the greater significance for Europe as well, like, it can't be overstated just how much this means to the sport and what it represents. Like, I'm looking at the results in front of me right now. Germany, as it has done for the last few years now, has 3 paddlers inside that top 20. It's Gordon that has kind of led the way. Even the young guys coming through, Bernardo, Hector, Pierre, they all finished in the top 10. They've grown up chasing Gordon at these races around Europe. He really has been a pioneer.
Yeah, I actually said it to him afterwards. I was like, you have now shone the light on a pathway that others can follow. And it's not just this fallacy now that people may or like set out to dream and achieve. It's a bit like the 4-minute mile. It's now there's a European paddler who's won a world title, and this is him, and this is how he did it. And so can you. And so, like I said, I think when I foreshadowed this, I mean, we have seen the changing of the guard. This is the European guard. And it may only be, one person winning. There's still plenty inside the top 10, even more inside the top 20. But winning is different to medaling, and different to top 5, different to top 10. And it then gives hope to the whole of Europe in what's possible. Not only are they, they're not starting to think like, oh, are we investing in the wrong sport? Because I know Spain's doing so much with their clubs, and that whole pathway into ocean racing, that is now worth it to them.
Yeah, 100%. Macca, I'm looking at these results at the moment, and you can look at that top 10. There's 3 European under-23 paddlers in that top 10. There's 4 in the top 11. Marin Laney from France. I think he could be a first-year under-23 paddler as well. So the fact that you've got 4 under-23 Europeans in the top 11 of those world titles, that is the payoff for what you've been talking about as well. Corey Hill claiming the silver medal, and excuse me, might potentially cut that one out. Extending his extraordinary run at the World Championships. That's now 6 medals from 7 campaigns. The one year that he didn't medal, he was very, very sick with COVID in 2022 in Portugal. Corey's done it in all conditions. Like, we're talking about how strong Gordon is, and like he is. For Corey to come second in a headwind race, he paddled down Hank McGregor at the end of that race, who, as we know, is an 11-time marathon canoe world champion. Like, look, Corey's always had this ability, but I think people just kind of, look, maybe not so much now in these last few years with all the races that he keeps winning, but I just don't know if Corey's got the respect as a paddler, as a grinder. Do you know what I mean, Macca? Like, he's so good downwind that everyone goes, oh yeah, he's so good downwind. But like, this is an extraordinary performance from Corey.
Yeah, I think he does want to try and be remembered as one of the greatest of all time. And to do that, you need to be amazing in every conditions. And I think you're right. His paddling ability and consistency across those races that aren't so good downwind, it makes me wonder why it's not there, because it's not like his results aren't there in those races. And he's continually proved that he can match it, podium, be the best in conditions that aren't particularly, suited to him. See, even I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Suited to him downwind.
Yeah.
No, it's just like full all-around paddler, Mr. Consistent.
Mate, like even the Molokai 2 years ago when he won it in the flat and just absolutely broke that field of canoe marathon world champions. At that time, there was more than one of them in there. It's extraordinary. Hank McGregor as well. Macca, I watched the videos you sent me. That was actually the first thing that I saw about the race, and I just couldn't help but laugh because Hank's reflecting on the race, and how tough it was, and then he kind of just pauses and starts laughing and says, I'll be back next year. I'll be back next year.
I was going to ask him. I didn't even need to ask him.
Nah, it's just so good. Like what Hank gives to this sport, and I don't just mean in terms of, his esteemed results and, personality, in, also presence just at races as well. But like these last kind of maybe 5 years in particular, like the influence that he's had on the younger South Africans coming through, like how personable he is. He's always making time to chat to everyone. Like, I'm not suggesting that it hasn't always been like this, but I don't think it has.
I would. When you're
younger and you're trying to win these kind of races relentlessly, the one thing that is just always so evident watching Hank race now is just how much he loves it, and that is so good for our sport. Like, there seems to be this idea in every sport that people, I don't know, like protect themselves, want to preserve, their status, their, I guess the way they're viewed in terms of being a champion athlete. Like it's just so good to see, and like he still is, but like we're talking about a top 3 where Gordon's 38, Corey's 34.
35?
And if I
know what you mean.
35, and if I'm doing the numbers, Hank's 45,
46. He said
46. Like, and the fact that he not only is still racing, like, yeah, that is extraordinary. That goes without saying. But the fact that he wants to, like, I just think it's extraordinary, and particularly looking at that podium as well and seeing 3 dads on the podium. I know that Gordon actually said that it was his dream podium, and the fact that he could share it with his 2 surf ski idols and 2 other dads as well is pretty special. I'm looking at these date of birth that's listed on the results. There's Gordon 85, Corey 89, Hank 78, Matthew Fenn 2001. So there is a pretty extraordinary golf in these generations, but again, these guys are unmatched. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's like you said, those 3 people could almost be racing in the Masters categories. I think they can
they
all
could.
be racing in
They
the Masters
could.
categories. No one was under the age of 35. Like, there's a longevity in this sport. It certainly doesn't have to come, at Matthew Fenn's age.
Yep.
And geez, who knows how long he'll be around if Hank McGregor's anything to go by. But I think that's also crazy, right? That Hank is 10 years older than Corey.
Yeah.
And he's still there.
Yeah.
That's 10 years, right? People have come and gone within sports. The world titles have only been going for 11 years.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's incredible. You know what? They are 3 masters of the craft, that's for sure. Look, we're going to quickly fly through 23s and juniors before we get onto the women's. As we mentioned, under 23s, Matthew Fenn in 1, Bernardo Pereira in 2, Uli Hart in 3, Marin Laney from France is in 4, and Pablo St. Mary from Spain, whose name I haven't seen pop up before, he is in 5th place. I think I just called Hector Henot I thought Hector was still under 23s. Maybe he must be first year out. Macca, Matthew Fenn, his rise continues. I don't think it can be overstated how impressive his puddle was. He wins in 1 hour 29 and 20 seconds. That's about 2.5 minutes ahead of Uli Hart, who did blitz the field at the South African National Championships. Matt is now a world class paddler. Period.
Yeah, for sure. I think he'll be the first to tell you that he loves smaller, if not flatter, things. I remember we were chatting about Hong Kong, and he's like, that's the biggest ocean, Hong Kong last year. And he's like, that's the biggest ocean I've ever paddled in. Which it was big, don't get me wrong, but he comes from South Africa in a pretty big area. So it makes me think maybe he hasn't gone out in some of the bigger stuff, but...
And from a family that literally makes the surf
skis. The surf ski for downwind conditions. He still, he would be the first to say, though, that he loves those conditions. And as soon as he found out that it was going to be like that, he just relished in it. But once again, what he proved he could do at the World Championships, a 4th is incredible.
Yeah, that's right. 40 starters in that under-23 division, 2 of them from South Africa, none from Australia, so 38 from Europe. It's pretty impressive. We'll come back to that point a little bit later on as well. Under 18s, the new under 18 junior world champion is Sam Macca, and yes, that is the son of David as well. In 2nd place, also from South Africa, is Heath Clark. 3rd was Terry Michael from Great Britain. Great to see Great Britain on the podium. 4th was Pablo Rosco from Spain. And 5th was Leonardo Candela from Italy as well. I love seeing the different flags in this junior division, Macca. And isn't that a sign of just where this sport is heading as well? Is that more and more nations getting involved, but on top of the world, it's a throwback to the past, isn't it? One thing I do have to say about Sam, look, I haven't met Sam. I've spoken to Dav about him a lot, and you always see him pop up in, when he was a lot younger, doing Sea Dog races on the back of a double with David. And I actually was laughing with David on the phone maybe 2 months ago when we were chatting just about life and how he was going, and he was saying that he's just found this energy and he's really enjoying his paddling. And I said, Dav, that's because for now you're paddling with pride, because your son is catching you, and Sam will get you at some point soon. But for now, you're doing everything you can to stay in front. Sam didn't get his dad in this race. Dav did finish ahead of him, but hey, it's a name to keep an eye on in the future, that's for sure, because he's still really young, Sam Macca as well.
Yeah.
Well said, Macca. Thank you very much. Let's go on to the women's race now too.
You sort of wrapped that up.
There is also a new world champion in the women's field too, on top of the world. It is South Africa's Kira Bester. She finished 22 seconds ahead of Michelle Byrne who has also won a world title to her name as well. Anna Swedish was third overall. She was less than a second. I think that's 0.3 I'm looking out of a second ahead of Milani van Niekerk from South Africa in fourth.
Crazy.
Fifth was Saskia Hockley from South Africa. 6 was Spain's Judith Vergis. 7 was Georgia Singh, the South African junior. 8 was Chloe Bunnett. 9 was Jade Wilson. And rounding out that top 10 is Amaya Osaba from Spain. Macca, Kira has fulfilled her destiny. We always knew she was going to get to this point, and she has done it. She's such a well-rounded paddler. We saw what she could produce in Perth last year. She finished third at last year's World Championships overall, but as we spoke about on the podcast at the time, she recorded the fastest 1K split. It feels like that she's just got this potential that now she's starting to realise.
I think she's done a lot of work as well, which is evident in that interview. I think another one, just like Gordon, how much effort they put in. She was a bit worried. She didn't know if she'd done enough to get her across the line. And it was 22 seconds enough. And I think, there's been a lot building up to that race for her. And probably a lot of, she's been, very, very clear that she wants to win that world title. And by going out and saying that, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and then to deliver on that pressure on the day is something special. Like, a lot of people don't do that, can't do that, and she definitely did. So, commending on the ability that she had there. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the race unfold that much.
It wouldn't have been by much, Macca.
Yeah, that's true. I did wonder if I got chicked. They actually started, I think we started, it was meant to be 5 minutes or so behind the people. Quick caveat here. We were meant to start 5 minutes behind the SUP guys, or the OC guys, and then the chicks were meant to start 5-10 minutes behind us, and they reckon they were probably a minute and a half. So it just happened super quick.
Yeah.
No doubt they would have been through the pack of the men as they were leading out to the cam, which would have been absolutely annoying as all hell. But she, like I said, she put a lot into that race. You can tell, and I'm stoked for her to come out with that result. Very deserving of it. One thing to note: she didn't win the SS Women Open title.
We do this. Can I not just drop in my rant from last year? Or the
you can if you want. You'll be glad to know. You'll be glad to know, Sam. It is changing. Colin had made some comments about it changing and the name of canoe ocean racing being called something different at the next world title. So
surf ski.
Yeah.
Surely. I do just for those who aren't up to speed, Kira is still an under 23 paddler. So is Anna Swedish as well, and Saskia Hockley, right? So they were 1, 3, and 5. If you go back, every year this has occurred. Anna Swedish, it's occurred a couple of times. Gemma Smith, it happened with in 2022, and she had nominated for the Opens, and she, wasn't given a medal for winning the under 23s. It's just stupid because what's Michelle Byrne going to do? She doesn't want a gold medal, because she wants a silver medal. She should be proud to have earned that silver medal, but. Yeah, bizarre. Look, one thing I will say on Kira, great news, by the way, Macca. Thanks. I didn't actually know that, so thanks for sharing. One thing I will say about Kira too is that it just feels like now she's starting to realise what she's capable of. She actually pointed out to you, Macca, that it was 2 years ago when Gemma did do the double of winning the under-23 and the overall Women's World Championship, that it actually made her realise that it was possible. She kind of didn't think that maybe someone that at that age could produce that. So it's just incredible to see her do that. By the same token, Michelle Byrne, look, we don't have to go into ages specifically, but she's given away 16 years to Kira for her to grind out that kind of paddle in what are not her favourite conditions. I think we can make that very clear. They're not her favourite conditions. Really, really impressive. And, similar to Hank, next year we're going to Durban to race. That's Michelle's home. She is fired up. And, one thing that she enthusiastically pointed out that it was runs from start to finish on next year's course. So, look, hopefully we do get there as well. Macca, we'll quickly just run through the age categories as well because we've got a little bit to get through too. There's under 23 women's. So, it was Kira Bester who is crowned with winning that ahead of Anna Swedish and Saskia Hockley. They were 1, 3, and 5 overall. Jade Wilson was 4th from South Africa, and Rosie Edwards from Great Britain was 5th as well. So look, again, we pointed out Great Britain before in the men's. Great to see them popping up in some of those results too. And then the juniors, it was Georgia Singh from South Africa who did take that one out over Holly Smith from South Africa as well. We've seen her name pop up a few times over the years racing. Lara Celia from Spain was 3rd. Noor Hachawi from Spain was 4th. And Hane Maul from France was 5th. Macca, Georgia Singh finishing 7th overall. She was about 9 minutes ahead of Holly Smith in 2nd. She is going to be a superstar. In fact, she already, 7th overall at a World Championship. She already is a superstar. That's a name to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that speaks volumes for itself. I don't know if anyone has done that at a junior ranks, right?
Yeah, great point. Unbelievable. We're going to take a quick short break, message from our sponsors, then we'll be back with a couple of our podcast picks, a couple of athletes we want to shine a spotlight on. This episode of the Paddlers Pod is brought to you by Vaikobi. Of course, they are the number one supporters of the Paddlers Pod, not just by our side from day one. They're also now giving away vouchers whenever we want. Essentially, Macca, that last episode of Talkback Radio was a classic. Well, Macca, I've put away my V Cold range well and truly. I'm in the UV range now. I'm feeling like I'm on the Gold Coast. We're now paddling in shorts and a t-shirt this week for the first time in the mornings as well. And I'm very, very glad to have the right gear for getting on the water.
You're back in summer, hey? I'm glad to hear it. Have you got the bod out yet, or you still got the shirt?
No, I don't have the honour of paddling when the sun is out, really. If I get a bit of shirtless time, I take it.
It's in the moonlight. I need a bit of colour. Under the full moon, hey?
That's right. I need a bit of colour. Vaikobi have got one of those V Cold vests that's like the reflective silver.
Jeez.
For paddling.
You can give everyone else a tan.
Jakey Reese wears it. I think if I took my shirt off, I'd wear something similar as well. Well, have you stripped back to nothing now?
Well, truthfully, I haven't paddled since the world titles.
I don't know. Maybe that could be part of the problem. 26th overall. Maybe we'll have to...
hang on. I paddled up to the world titles.
That is a good point. So if you're sitting there thinking, why am I hearing this? Why are they talking about shirtless people? It's because you need to get to vaikobi.com. You need to load up on the latest range as well. Those tech shirts are always improving. They're getting lighter and lighter every single year and more comfortable to wear as well. And the same can be said about the V Cold range too. If you are listening in the Northern Hemisphere where things are about to get very, very chilly, Gordon Harbrecht was saying the other day that it's now about 8 degrees in the water and on top when he's been paddling lately as well. So Vaikobi.com, it has everything that you need. Macca, I laid down the challenge to you that I want you to pick out your 3 best performers, or also maybe 3 favourite performers from the World Championships. Could be any athlete of any gender, any age, and just shine a spotlight on them. I have done the same. So maybe we go one for one. Do you want to go first? Because I'm worried that we're potentially going to double up and I might be able to pivot a little bit quicker.
All right. Top dog. Am I? Okay, one for one. I'll go first.
We'll go one for one. One for one. Look, because we so often, and rightly so often focus on those at the front of these races. But I'm looking through this top 20 at the moment and there's so many outstanding performers. And it goes beyond the 22. And I think it just might be a nice way to recognise some of those athletes. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, you took the wind out of my sails. That's why I didn't want to give too much of a comment to Sam Mockey.
Okay.
Because I had a look. I did more than just homework, Sam. I looked at pre-existing or historical results. So in 2013, do you know the name of the man that came 21st overall? We were both in that race. It wasn't me.
What did you come that year?
I was further behind. I think I was 30th or something. I was in the wrong age group. Should have got second in the 18s, but whatever.
Oh,
that. Here we go. So the man that got 21st overall in the 2013 World Titles was none other than Kenny Rice. And
really? Wow.
History.
Macca, this is the most impressive stat you've ever brought to the show. This is incredible.
So, I mean, history speaks for itself in what Kenny Rice has been able to achieve in the last 11 years.
Yeah, and just to spell it out, Kenny did win the under-18 world title on that day, just like Sam as well. Yeah.
Yes. But Kenny did win by 3 minutes over Nicky Naughton, where Sam... I actually watched their race unfold, which was hilarious. Josh and me just paddling in from 6K out. I said to Josh, hey, do you want some, like, Coke? I had some, like, flat Coca-Cola I was going to give to him, and he was like, no. I got to the end, and he was like, I should have taken the Coke. I'm like, I know, because you didn't take a lead any time the whole way back. But it was actually Heath Clark up in front, and I just saw so much of Darv in Sam. Like, just never give up the whole way. Like, I watched him like go from what was like behind me on my right side to swapping to go to my left side because there was like some boat coming past at a million miles an hour. He was never going to catch the boat wash, but like, you know what I mean? Just trying to find anything in the ocean. And then he sort of like jumped on our wash, and then he was back. There was 4 of us, and I thought, okay, like they're going to cruise in. Like, nah. He then took a lead. He saw, like, I didn't know it was Heath. Like, but he would have known. Like, he saw Heath, he took a lead, he went like around me, put the hammer down, and you could just tell like he was in this state of like, I'm gonna get you. And this is like into the headwind of the last 3 kilometers, right? And I just saw so much of that's Darv, right? In a nutshell, which is like all the way to the line, all the way to the end, all the time. And
so good.
It was so cool to see. And I mean, you know what I mean? 21st in 2013 and this 21st in 2024 as an 18. They both win the 18 world title. I'm not sure if it was actually a world title back in 2013, but it is now and it deserves to be. And I think for that, he definitely gets a special mention of mine because I'm excited to see where he goes. And after hearing a little bit more about Sam from the other guys, like, how good of a rugby player he was, but like he's not into that and he's worried he's going to get injured already at the age of, I actually think he's more like 16. So
he's pretty young.
Yeah. I mean, Hank would not, he was just given absolute hell to Josh on what age he is. Well, I think they started calling him 14 or something just to rub it in a little bit more.
He's given up 3 years to Heath Clark. Like, Heath came seconds 2006, Sam's 2009.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So make him be 16.
But he's pretty committed to the surf life saving scene. Surf life saving, to the ocean scene, which is involved with surf life saving and the ocean paddling, surf ski paddling side. And he's sort of given up all the water polo, all the rugby, like contact sports, and sort of focusing on that. So that's dangerous in itself, right? To see now he's pretty solely focused where he's going to head.
100%, Macca. So well said, man. I'm so proud of you too. That's a ripping bit of research. Good man.
I've started it hot. It might get worse, but
mine might sound like an easy one as the first paddler I want to recognise, but that's Bernardo Pereira, who, yes, did finish 7th overall, which, again, for a Portuguese paddler, like, that could be the best result for a Portuguese paddler overall at the ICF Ocean Racing World Championships. Is there anyone, like, I think that is correct. I didn't quite do my research like you, Macca. But for me, what's more impressive for Bernardo is, like, just how much work he did to organise this World Championships as well. We mentioned before that Bernardo is from the island of Madeira. It's not a huge island, and it's a very, very small paddling community, but he has been instrumental in pulling it together and making it work. Like, I'm talking to the extent that, you know, he sought me out earlier this year wanting me to kind of look into what it would take to make a documentary on the World Championships. And, you know, I presented that to him and a few others, and he took that and pitched it to the tourism board himself. Like, he's organising, you know, things with the tourism board. He's the middleman for the athletes to the organising committee of the race. He's giving everyone 10% discounts off rental cars if you put the code Bernardo10 from his Instagram. It as you know, Macca, you've been involved in, you know, events and event management before. To kind of have such a role and then to jump in and compete is a really, really difficult thing. So for Bernardo to produce what is one of his, you know, more impressive results he's had on the world stage in conditions that you may or may not have picked him to do it in, I just found that so impressive. And although, as always, everyone wants to win, and he would have been hoping that he was going to be able to win that under 23 world title. I hope that he can reflect and understand what he achieved as well, because that's like a legacy thing. To have a World Championships at home, that goes far bigger than yourself, and I just think that's he's done an outstanding job.
No, I couldn't agree more. I can't think of anything worse or harder. I mean, being an athlete is easy in compared to the other side of organising the event for athletes. Take my word for it. much easier.
It's so true.
And he has done both of those well. Amazing World Championships. He's obviously going to be, he wants to put on the best event he can. It's his homeland. He wants to, he wants that not just for him, but he wants it for the paddlers to want to come back and do everything. And, that's also hard when the conditions aren't perfect. He's like, it's almost, he's taking on the responsibility for something he can't control. That's also another hard thing that he's had to deal with. And he's just continually, I think he's proven himself to be able to race in all types of conditions. He's grown up in Madeira paddling and in mostly what is just downwind conditions. And so for him to then be able to put it all together in something that had some downwind, but also had, flat and headwind is really special. And especially at a time where he did so much outside of just the racing aspect in terms of the event organisation. So
well said, Macca. Very well said.
Kudos.
Who are you going to shine that spotlight on?
You keep saying, you did it again. Georgia Singh. She needs another mention, right? She got 7th overall
Incredible.
as an 18-year-old.
And here I thought you were just being lazy, not wanting to contribute to the conversation on the podcast. You were just trying to
wait. I
keep
wanted
your
my
powder dry.
moment. I wanted my moment.
Well, let's hear it.
It's just, I mean, under 18 finishes 7th overall. Where do you go from there? Obviously, there's 6 places to
Up.
go.
You go up.
But
I think she's going to
quickly?
be a name. She's going to be a name we're going to be talking about for a pretty long time. This next generation of South African paddlers, depending on where you want to, call the generation. We've obviously, acknowledged Kira Bester. Saskia Hockley's still super young as well. She was right there on the pace too. And you have people like Georgia Singh, Jade Wilson, they're all thereabouts as well and only getting better. It's impressive stuff.
I just thought, if she's... I actually don't know enough about Georgia, and that's probably my fail in doing some research.
Listen, what you did with Sam was pretty impressive, so I don't mind that.
Yeah, but I wanted to know, is she a better downwind paddler than she is a flat water paddler?
Well, she races marathon as well, and she races marathon very, very well. We're only speaking about it 2 episodes ago about the canoe marathon world championships.
Yeah, understood. I just what happens when we go to Durban? She's back at home. Well, maybe not home, but she's in South Africa, and it's she's got a 7th. Does she get 4th, 3rd?
Well, look, it's hard to say because you would hope next year we also have the return of a few more of our leading female paddlers, which you might get to at the very end of this podcast. But you're right, Macca. I think she's only someone that's going to get better and better. And you know what? The person that I wanted to go to next is actually one below her on the results, and that is Chloe Bunnett as well, who is South African. She is Spanish, but what she is a tireless advocate for surf ski paddling. And she's at every major race. She's traveled all around the world. She always has a smile on her face. She gets on the water. She absolutely has a rip as well. And she's still mixing it with the very, very best in the world too. Listen, we're not going to do an age thing again, like I said before. But if you go from 7th to 8th, right, from Georgia Singh, who's born in 2006, Chloe Bunnett's born in 1978. And they are still going head to head, and Chloe is doing so much for the sport in Europe. The experience as well that she's been able to pass on to so many young Spanish paddlers, but so many young European paddlers too, is just invaluable. And they are the things, like we were speaking about with Gordon, that is how you lift everyone to get better, is, by continually upskilling, not just training standards, but, just sharing that knowledge. So I just wanted to give her a moment because, you know, she's always thereabouts in races, and I feel like we don't get to speak about her enough. You know, she is one of the greats of the sport, you know, has just left such a legacy in surf ski paddling, and there's still so much more to write. So I just thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, you're so right, actually. Like, she's been a stable paddler as long as we have been on the scene, and had amazing results all the way throughout. But more so, you're right, has done so much in the way of European paddling, especially Spanish paddling, and helping that evolution in that area. You know, a lot of that and that female drive can be attributed to her. So, good work. I love the philosophical like ending to this, and I didn't mean for it to tie in this way, but it's going to tie in this way for my last pick. And my last pick is Esteban Medina.
Oh, that is just top shelf.
Was yours? Well, I hope yours was. I hope you got something else.
No, mine wasn't. But I wish it was. What a man!
What a man!
What
so
a man.
He's actually like, you know, there's Hank and then there's Walter. They're like the 46 age category, right? And then you've got the Corey and the Gordon who are like that 35 to 38. But then there's Esteban, and he's the 41 age. And I don't like to go on the age category, but it is interesting to note. Like, he's been around the shop just as long. He doesn't have the results or accolades that, you know, Hank or Walter would have, but his passion is like none other. You know, he's got his own surf ski school. Not only does he train and live surf ski, he also works. You know, that's his passion. That's his life. Takes people out on kayaking tours in his home country. Like, that is in essence what a surf ski paddler at core is. And I think,
mate, he still banked a top 20 result as well, like finishing in 20th. Like, our sport is so much better for having people like him involved in it. Macca, I think back to some of our first international trips. Esteban is like one of the first, you know, kind of people we met who lived in another country. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's just someone who is so welcoming, is so funny, can understand Australians speak English, which I just think is extraordinary. And, you know, I saw it at not just, you know, the 22 world titles. Esteban was in Perth last year, hey?
Yep.
Yeah,
he's been.
Sorry, they're all starting to blur into one. Yeah, they're starting to blur into one. But he was, you know, team manager of Spain, and he's leading all of these young kids, showing them what surf ski is about. And I don't just mean this is how to catch runs and, you know, make sure you don't miss the start, but like going up and meeting people from different countries, you know, having a great time, you know, making friends, you know, having conversations with different people. Like, he's the epitome of that. And I was actually so glad, this isn't my pick, but I just want to say Nacho, big wave Nacho, Ignacio Soler as well, who actually only finished 2 places behind. I was stoked. Nacho bet you, Macca, which is great. I'm so glad to see. You know, he's been out of the sport for a couple of years now, Nacho. But he's someone I call, you know, like, he's a dear friend, a very, very dear friend, because of these experiences you share. And that is what our sport is built on. Our sport is built on great people like that.
Yeah, geez, too right you are. I think the last thing I want to say about Esteban was that I got passed by a lot of people, right, in that race. And he's in his own race, battling for something that is a pretty good result in his books, I would say, right now. And given the conditions and everything, and he took the time to be like, come on, like, you can do it. You know what I mean?
So good.
Almost like you
So
shouldn't
good.
be back here. Let's go. Let's do it together. And I was like, geez, those things are the things that matter.
Oh, 100%. Look, my last one before we got to wrap things up, because we have another episode to record, is Pierre Villela, who did finish 9th overall from France. He has just been enjoying a meteoric rise, and I think it should be acknowledged. He actually spent a summer in Australia last year. He won the Bridge to Beach down here. He beat Oscar Jones in what was a grind. And he beat Hector as well, Hector Henot, like in that race too. That is no small achievement to do that in those conditions, but like, he just loves surf ski paddling and surf life saving, and that's why he wanted to spend a summer here in Sydney. and upskill, and this is the product of it. He's the same age as Hector as well, and he's certainly come on in the last few years. Hector, blazed through those junior age categories, and Pierre's right there as well. So I think there was there wasn't much separating them, about 40 seconds, the two French paddlers there in 8th and 9th. But for mine, Pierre, always doing it with a smile on his face. Such a lovely guy, and it's just great to see people get that reward out of their paddling as well. Look, last thing I'm going to say before we wrap this thing up, Macca, is that, we have mentioned about the world titles going to Durban next year. I think that is going to be a bigger world championships as well. And I don't mean that in disrespect to Madeira, but the one thing that's looking through these results is very, very notable is a complete lack of Australians, for one. How many of you were there? 7, including the Masters. Is that right?
Maybe more like 10.
Okay. And South Africans too. Like, we had 2 South Africans in the under-23s.
Yeah.
I know what my suggestion would be as to how we have the best paddlers racing at the World Championships, and that is to go back to every second year. I think greed probably gets in the way of that, considering they've also announced the next 4 as well. So that won't be happening anytime soon. But I just think it's a real shame, because if you continue listening to the Paddlers Pod at the same time that the World Championships are being run, we had some of the best female paddlers in the world, not there, competing in other events. So look, it's something that's not going to go away. But what I will say is a huge congratulations for Madeira for making this work. Like, the logistics of actually running a World Championships in the middle of absolutely nowhere is pretty extraordinary, and they did such a great job, right?
Yeah, no, it was not easy by any feat, and I know Bernardo had a lot to do with it. So once again, it's another feather in his cap on all he was able to do for the event. It wasn't easy at all, and it was really cool. It was a very cool place to go. I stayed afterwards, got to see Madeira and all of its glory, and it was fascinating. It was an amazing island. Unfortunately, though, the wind did pick up, and I got to see it in full force, and what could have been one of the best downwinds of all time. But
I think we're cursed. I think we're cursed, and I didn't want to go into it.
Is Portugal's cursed?
Portugal's definitely cursed.
We're 3
Portugal's
from 3.
definitely cursed. Yeah.
Hong Kong was pumping. Tahiti was pumping.
Perth was good last year.
Perth was pumping. I don't think we're cursed. I just think that Portugal might be cursed.
Okay. Well, Macca, that might be where we have to leave it. Say your line and on to the next.
On to the next. Here we go. Until then, take care. Happy paddling. It's good to be back, and enjoy.
The Paddlers Pod with Sam and Macca.